All right, well, this is going to be harder than I thought. Hello and welcome back to the Boat Shed. Today's episode is going to be all about chain plates. Stick around. If you've been following along with the videos, you'll know that recently we've been digging out and exposing some old bulwarks on this boat. And in that process, we've exposed some internal or encapsulated chain plates. Now, don't worry if you don't know what all this means, if it just sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook. We'll get into that in just a second. But before we go too far, my name is John, and this boat here is Antidote. She's a 1989 Liberty 458, and we're doing a really big restoration on this boat here on my driveway. Now, I am not a pro boat builder, but an engineer and a sailor with the dream of fixing up this old boat to go sail around the world someday, but we've got a lot of work to do first. All right, well, what is a chain plate and what does it do? Essentially, it is the piece of hardware that's on the hull, and it connects to a piece of hardware that we call standing rigging, and that is either going to be cable or sometimes like rigid rod, and that's used to hold the mast up. It supports the mast, keeps it in column or straight up and down, so it doesn't wiggle and then eventually just fall over. So it's a very critical part of the assembly of the sailboat. You couldn't really get on without it. And there's lots of different ways that people and builders have put these into boats over the years. And instead of just telling you all about them, it's probably easier if I just show you what I mean. So we are here at the Bellingham Marina, and I wanted to show you the different types of chain plates. And so we're going to be looking at fiberglass boats here. And so mainly we're talking about metal chain plates that are somehow affixed to the hull. And it's generally some degree of inboard to outboard. I'll show you what I mean. So this is Odyssey. This might be a familiar boat. And here we have a couple of stays that come down to a combined chain plate. And you'll see here there's a cover. This is just a cover. And then this plate here goes through the deck and fastens to a part inside the boat. Now on the inside here, we see that that chain plate comes through and then bolts to the wood here on the side, just into like a strong bulkhead. Now there's some evidence of leaking here and some water damage to this wood. And that's probably not a big surprise. That's one of the main problems with this style of chain plate is that they generate leaks on the deck. You've got the deck moving. Everything is moving a little bit as the boat flexes and it sails, and you get water inside. So one of the common complaints, I'm not sure what the name for that chain plate is. Inboard, standard. If you know, put the answer in the description down below. As I'm walking along here, I'm noticing that the majority of the boats have that style of chain plate. Something that goes through the deck. Now that's going to give you better sheeting angles. You'll be able to get your head sails pulled in a little tighter. I think that's one of the reasons that people like those. Also, you're able to walk around the shrouds as you're going forward instead of having to kind of duck under them. That's something that's kind of annoying about Antidote, to be honest. But now as I'm walking, I've seen 3 boats now that have externally mounted chain plates. This is what we might have to do with Antidote. So as the name implies, these are just literally bolted to the side of the hull using some carriage bolts in this case. I think with most people, these tend to leak a little bit less than the previous style that we looked at, since it is easier to seal the round hole than it is to get that slot on the deck that tends to be moving around a lot more. One of the downsides there is that you're not able to get your head sail sheeted in as tight, because as you can imagine, the sheets have to go out around the outside of those shrouds. And so with them being mounted to the outside of the boat, they're just further out. Now, some people don't really like the look of external chain plates. I think they look kind of cool on an old salty boat, a lot of teak on it and things like that. I think Antidote, it's gonna look okay if we have to do that. Antidote's kind of a weird looking boat. Well, I think we have found the last kind I wanted to show you here, and this is the encapsulated or internal chain plates. So it's hard to know exactly how far these go down. They probably are mounted all the way down the bulwark into the glass. Interesting boat. It's for sale. So if anyone's interested, hit me up in the comments down below. And then here's one last boat on the way out that I know for sure has encapsulated chain plates, because it's an island packet. And these are notorious for being great boats, but having these internal chain plates that do have a lifespan and they do fail catastrophically, but they can be replaced. These ones are a little easier to replace, I think, than Antidotes. From this little walk around, I would say that 90% or more of these boats have sort of inboard through the deck chain plates. Then after that, maybe 8% have exterior mounted, external chain plates. I only found a couple of boats that have encapsulated plates. It is my opinion that encapsulated chain plates seemed like a fantastic idea in the late 80s, but I don't think it's a good way to put them together anymore, personally. Well, that was fun. And now aboard Antidote, we see here that we have these internal chain plates. And you'll notice that these go right down through the middle of the bulwarks. And if you've been watching the latest videos, these will be somewhat familiar to you. So now on Antidote, there are 4 of these on each side of the boat. So all 4 of these chain plate locations serve a different purpose in terms of holding the mast in a certain direction or up to a certain point on the mast. And to show you what I mean, I actually have a drawing that's original to the boat. These are from the 80s, and this was given to me by a couple in town here locally. Thanks again, Jim and Margot, for bringing this by. They actually used to own a Liberty way back in the day when these were first rolling off the line, and so they have a lot of knowledge about this, and they've given me this really cool original drawing for the boat. So you can see here how the rig is designed to sit, since none of you got to meet this boat before we put her here on the driveway. And so you see here, each of these serves a different purpose. Some of them connect lower, others run up higher to the top of the mast. That's the cap shroud, but they're all very important. Now, in the 80s and the 70s, stainless steel was a relatively new invention, and it was believed that it was essentially impervious to rust. Now, the problem with it is that when it's starved of oxygen, so it's in an environment where it gets wet, but then it can't breathe, it actually does start to rust, because that oxide layer that reacts with oxygen is actually what keeps the stainless from rusting. So in the perfect environment, or actually really imperfect environment, like way deep down inside this hull where this is fiberglassed into, any water that can drip down in there is just pooling. And so I'm half expecting to find that if I was to dig this out, that's what we would find. We'd find a rusty chain plate. Now, as far down as I can see on these, it actually looks really good, and it's going to be hard for me to get that on camera. I'll do my best. With these looking actually relatively good, the temptation is just to leave them. But here's the problem. Most stainless steel chain plates, the experts recommend, servicing them 20 to 30 years, kind of on the high end. And so we're already at 35, 36 now with this boat. So we're definitely getting into borrowed territory there. And I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for me to try to rig this boat up, do all this work to take it out into some potentially heavy weather with these chain plates. It's going to worry me and cause me to lose what little sleep I might be getting out there. So I think it just makes sense to investigate. So that's the purpose of today's video. Now, I will say that of the 31 boats that they built, these Liberties, there have not been any chain plate failures to date. Let's knock on some wood. 2 of the boats that I know about have been converted to external chain plates. That's probably the easiest way, most practical way to solve this problem. So what's it actually going to take to get some of these chain plates removed? Maybe we want to inspect a few of them, see what kind of condition they're in, possibly remove them all. I don't know yet. Let me take you inside and show you some of the issues though. Well, welcome aboard Antidote. We're in the main saloon here, and what's interesting about this boat is that despite the deck and the bulwarks being in just terrible, rotten condition, the interior of this boat is actually in pretty nice shape as far as I can tell. And that's part of the problem here, is because the easiest way to get those chain plates out is to just cut them out from the side. And as you can see, the interior here is actually in pretty nice shape. Of course, she's not without her issues, but generally the wood is in really nice condition in here. There's not that much staining. Here we're looking at one of the chain plates now through this porthole, and this is the center chain plate. This is the one for the main cap shroud and the other shrouds, the 2 shrouds. The good news is, at least it seems to be, that they've designed the chain plates to land behind different cabinetry that is either accessible or can be opened. For example, this cabinet here opens up, and then in behind would be the area of that main cap shroud chain plate. So if I'm able to cut out this backing panel, then I should be able to expose the fiberglass behind it and possibly cut out that chain plate. So these 2 chain plates, it looks like we get one landing in that cabinet there and the other one in that cubby where you would put like books and different things. So potentially removing that staving and then getting in behind, I might be able to access these 2 plates. Now going forward is a little bit of a different story. Over on the port side, we've got one chain plate that goes right from there into all this staving here. So we could potentially remove some of that, cut it back, and that's probably the easiest one to access. Maybe we'll start with that. Over here on the port side, we have what might be the harder one to access. We've got our plate right here, and then that's going to go through into this cabinet section here. So potentially by cutting back in there, and in there we might be able to access, but this one could be a little bit of a pain. Of course, nothing is ever easy on the boat. Now heading into the aft quarters. Ooh, it's dark. I'm afraid back here, again, it's probably going to be difficult to access. One of them is in this cabinet here, which we can get in behind potentially. We should be able to expose some of it. And then there's a twinned version on this side. So I think these two back here present the most challenge. Maybe what we'll do is hone our skills as we work our way back. So let's start with that starboard forward plate. We'll get that one out first just to inspect it. Now before we do, we'll take a bunch of measurements, get all the angles and locations marked down so that we know exactly where and how these went in. So when we put the new solution in, we'll know exactly where to go. I don't know if you can hear that rain. Actually, I know that you can. I'm sure that you can hear that rain. It's crazy. It's probably going to sound terrible. Well, it's the following day and the rain has stopped, so we've got the tools ready. Let's start measuring up these chain plates so that we can maybe start messing with them. The first thing I wanted to do here was to take some baseline angle measurements from the boat itself to make sure that it's sitting level. So if I take some angles off these chain plates, that I kind of know that they are correct when the boat is sitting flat. And now I do think some of these have already bent a little bit. Some of them look kind of wonky in their positioning, and I can definitely tell that at least one has bulged out like I showed you in the last video. So we'll just take everything as it is. We'll probably do some measurements on that drawing that I showed you and make sure that we like how these are sitting so they're pulling straight. So with those baseline angles, then I can do the same thing here on each of these chain plates, measuring all 4 of these. Also the distances from some of these holes that locate the stanchions, that's going to be a good landmark so that I know where these were set fore and aft. Nothing too exciting here. Hopefully you haven't already skipped off this video. Let's keep on moving. I think with all that recorded, it's looking good. And now we're ready to start making some cuts, I think. Or at least almost. I can already hear the comments now. So much talking, not enough action. Well, let's get busy with that. In fact, you can check the comments down below and see if there isn't already a comment like that. And if there isn't, this is your chance now to put a comment down below that's going to be less talking, more action, please. Okay, here we go. Let's get started now up here in the bow, trying to take care of some of this beautiful interior. So we're going to try and take off some of this planking along the side there. Earlier I called it staving. That might not be a correct term, just so you know. We'll also take off this overhead panel. I think that is going to help. It's going to give us a bit of a gap, some room to work. And what else do we have here? Oh, there's a piece of trim here on the side that we'll need to take out. This might seem like a lot of extra work, but I think it is going to help. I'll probably talk more about why I'm doing all this, but let's get started on the work first. Let's take a second to thank some of the new Patreon and YouTube members that help keep this channel floating along. Now, if you're interested in some extra updates and ad-free videos, you can check out the Patreon link below or hit that join button. Now, the folks whose names are appearing on the screen go the extra mile to keep this channel working, and I couldn't do it without you. Thank you all so much. Now, back to the video. Now I can imagine that you might be asking, why is any of this necessary? Can't you just drill some little holes in the side there, recover the wood? And the answer is probably yes, but I would like to get this opened up cleanly. For one, I kind of know how this is put together, and also it gives me the opportunity to show all of you how this chain plate has survived after 35 years. Since none of these boats have ever had this maintenance done that I'm aware of, I would like to be able to at least try to take one out, get a really good look at it, even though it's not representative of all of them necessarily, and see what kind of condition it's in. Also, if it is completely rusted out and just turned into powder, then drilling through it and using it as a backing plate is kind of a bad idea probably. Well, in the end we get it out, but in two pieces, and there was really no avoiding that because it was jammed in there and stuck up above some of these wood pieces. But now we're good to go. I did also find that there is an area here where I seem to have punched through. We'll go check that out from above, but you can see some light coming in through here. Anyway, we'll keep this piece as a pattern. It's just 3/8 ply, so we'll be able to replace that soon. All right, well, next up, it's the wood planking on the sides to come out. Hopefully we can get that out carefully. And so we'll see if those are also glued in. They could be hard to get off as well. All right, well, this is gonna be harder than I thought. It feels like there is a thicker piece of wood behind in there, and I think it's all been glued in place similar to this top piece where there's a bunch of like a mastic or some sort of sticky glue. I can't imagine that we're gonna get this off without doing a whole lot of destruction. And now this is all teak and gonna be very hard to replace with good wood, seeing as it's very hard to get, or at least it's like $40 a board foot these days. I might have an idea here. We'll see how this goes. Now I might actually remove this bunk because it looks like I can pull some screws up and get the bunk out of the way. That might actually help with some of this work. So let's try that. Huzzah! Well, if you can build it, you can unbuild it. And we've been able to remove that first piece on the bottom. Sort of a sacrificial piece because it doesn't look that nice. It's actually below the bunk, so even if it would have gotten damaged, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. I think I'm going to be able to lift these out. It might take a little bit of time, but I'm softening the glue with the heat gun and breaking them apart with the putty knives. They're really thin, so they get in behind. It is sort of breaking the plywood up a bit, but I don't care. The plywood can get destroyed. I can replace that very easily. No big deal. It's the teak I want to save. It's expensive to replace. Let's keep going. Well, 4 down and 19 and a half to go. So we keep plugging away here. This one actually ended up tearing out a little bit of wood on the end, so maybe I just need to be a little more careful here going forward. On we go. Well, that was actually pretty epic, but we were able to get them out, and I did break a few. I've had to make some repairs. Some of them just tore out a little bit on the back side. Others did actually crack completely. I'm going to try to repair these. I think once they're epoxied back together that they won't really show much. I suppose worst case scenario, I have to remake a couple, but I am hoping to be able to put this back together and have it look more or less like it did originally. So to repair a couple of these, I've just wiped these with acetone very quickly to get any of the oils at the surface out, and then I'm just mixing up my usual Hawk epoxy, my 5:1, and this is gonna hopefully hold these together. So I'll just set these up, let them cure for 24 or more hours. It'll be a while before I get back to these, so they should be plenty strong. Hopefully they'll stay together and finish and look quite nice. So with that, let's tear off that piece of plywood. Removing that plywood actually went pretty well, and all that's left behind now is a little bit of dust and debris. So behind these pads, there's some chain plates in here somewhere, so we're gonna try and find those. We are gonna get right on that, but first we are up here in Burnaby, BC on a quick mission because some of those building materials, that wall, that mastic or glue, whatever that is that's held that panel on, I'm not sure what that is. It just causes me a little bit of concern. I know that there was a lot of asbestos in boat building materials, especially in the 70s. This boat is quite a bit newer, built in 1989, but in Taiwan, from my quick research, they didn't really get rid of asbestos in building materials in the boatyards well into the 2010s. So it's just something that I want to be really careful about, and it's something that I think is important to share because if you're working on your boat, you can't just assume that everything is going to be safe. So we're gonna get it tested. Hopefully we come back clean. I really, really don't want that to have asbestos in it, but I'll let you know as soon as I find out. Well, all right. Results have come back clean, no asbestos detected. So I'm in the mood to celebrate, and you can help me celebrate by hitting that like button down there. It really does help with the channel, so thank you all so much. Now let's get back to those chain plates. We're gonna get that thing out of here one way or another. Stick around. Okay, welcome back aboard the forward stateroom here. Just want to take a second to kind of talk about what's going on here. You'll see here, this appears to be foam in behind the glass. That's what the marketing material suggests, that this whole thing is insulated with some foam. I do see some areas of the glass, there's this like black streaking. I'm not too sure what that would be. I'm wondering if maybe that's been from some water intrusion, possibly some mold growth back in there, but I don't know. When I test it with the moisture meter, I get 0, like not even registering on there for any moisture at all. So I kind of don't think it's related to water intrusion. I'm going to leave these sort of like pads where they are, all these little gookum pucks, because that's going to help me establish the new plywood, the level, so that things will hopefully go back more or less the way they came. Now things get a little different over here. The chain plate we're after is in this back corner, and I think I see it starting up here, and then it's hard to see it through there, but then down below here there is a little pocket that kind of becomes evident, and it comes down, and there might be a bit of the crossbar down here. Now I believe this chain plate is welded with 2 horizontal crossbars, one near the top and one down a little lower, that go back to the further 2 chain plates. The reason I believe that is that I have a picture that one of the viewers of the channel gave me, and it shows here when their boat was being built, it was just before this one, that they're all welded together. So I believe that's what I'm seeing here, and that is also what I have in the picture. So that's what we're going to kind of keep going with. Now, a lot of the times these chain plates are individually installed with just like a little H, modified H shape. So this one, with it being all welded together, going across this bulkhead, we have some challenges here in front of us. But let's start trying to cut ahead here onto what I believe is where the chain plate starts, and we'll just try to expose it as we go, see how this goes. The first thing I want to do here is cut open a little pocket just to sort of make sure I'm landing on the right spot. And here we've opened it up, and you can see that the stainless is right there behind a pretty thick amount of glass. So far I'd say this looks really good. Like the stainless looks in really, really nice shape. No problems at all yet. But now let's keep going. And with that piece, we now have the entire leg, the whole upper vertical portion exposed here. I'm gonna be really honest with you, it looks much, much better than I was expecting. I was thinking that we would find a lot of rust and crumbly old stainless down in here. This is in remarkable shape. And now I can't see everything there is to see about it. Obviously there could still be some hidden stuff, but there's really no evidence here that this thing's in any kind of trouble. As far as trying to help the other Liberty owners in the community, I'm not really sure what this does, because inspecting 1 out of 8 chain plates does not necessarily indicate that all of them are fine. My initial take on this is that probably this thing would be fine, and it's 37 years old. That's pretty incredible. Now, as I cut a little further south than I intended, I did get into the insulation foam, so you can actually see here there is some foam down around the inside of the hull, and so that's in good shape, which is good to see. Now I'm 50-50 on if I continue to dig this thing out or just leave it as it is. I'm not really sure if pulling it out really gets us anywhere, and maybe you have a thought on that. You can put your feeling in the comments down below. Log that in now before this video finishes. To locate the horizontal members, I think they're welded to the back side of the piece, and I don't see any evidence on this side. I might try and put my heat gun on here and use my FLIR scope to see if I can just pick up a bit of the heat tracing into the other stainless in behind the fiberglass. We'll see if that works, because stainless is not a great conductor, and of course the fiberglass will insulate that, but maybe we'll be able to pick something up. Let's give it a shot. Well, that didn't really work at all, which is too bad. I was hoping that would work, but maybe a little too cute. And it's probably good that FLIR isn't a sponsor of this week's video. It's still a very cool tool though. But I was able to locate the top bar, kind of referencing the old picture. I noticed it was just above this hole here, so that worked for this one. And the bottom one, we'll use the die grinder to just try to carefully excavate. And now we're not going deeper than we have to here, so this all is laid up on the inside of the hull structure. So I shouldn't be getting into any of the really important glass that makes the hull shape work well. We'll try to cut back here a little bit more and then also cut the bottom out. While I was researching the layout of these chain plates, I did find some pictures from a Hans Christian 33. This picture here I found looks like somebody has gone from the outside and they've cut through the outside of the hull to access the chain plates. So that is going to make sure that you don't damage your interior woodwork. But I'm sure that a lot of you, if I was doing that, would be going crazy right now, because that is going to definitely impact the structural strength of the hull. That's probably not a great idea to go from the outside. Anyway, my 2 cents. I'm sure that if with a proper scarf joint you can get that worked out. Here we go. I am pretty amazed at what condition this is in. I don't see any evidence of rusting. Even these welds look like they're pretty much brand new. So perhaps the worst area of this chain plate will be up inside here, where it goes from the interior to the exterior. I do really want to try and get this thing out. I'm just not sure how easy it's going to be. What do? Do you replace it even though it looks good? It's very difficult to inspect these, so as you're finding out. Anyway, tomorrow we'll charge on with trying to get it freed out. I'm going to try to pry it forward now. I do need to still separate these 2 horizontal legs, maybe drill through them, and then finish it off with an oscillating tool to cut it, because cutting stainless, not super easy. So I'll just cut around it as much as I need to, just to relieve a little bit of the pressure around the sides with the oscillating tool. And I'm not trying to cut very deep here, because I don't want to go into the good glass. And thankfully the polyester resin that is used here is not really a very good adhesive, so it's not going to stick to the stainless too much, I don't think. And look at that, with just a little bit of effort, we're able to pry that corner free. Nice. Okay, this is actually going better than I thought. So we've got this pulled forward a little bit, and I've wedged a bar behind it. Now I should be able to drill in here without going through. I have some lock collars that I'm going to be using on my drill bit just to keep it from diving in too deep. Sometimes, you know, when you're drilling through metal or anything, the bit will like grab and it'll just dive in. And so I want to make sure that I don't punch some big holes into the structural fiberglass. Let's give it a shot. Now I found through experience and just reading forums and stuff, the best thing to lubricate for drilling stainless is really just plain water, for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps the drill bit cool. You don't want to overheat the stainless because it'll work harden and it'll make drilling the hole that much harder. And then it also doesn't contaminate the surrounding area with oil, which is going to be nice when we're trying to glue things back in here. Firm, steady pressure seems to get the job done. Okay, well, I've seen better. That's why I usually use a drill press. So we'll try and true them up now and connect the dots, literally, with the oscillating tool. And I might use a new bit for this. I have this Milwaukee, this is like a carbide tipped one that I've had for a while, but it's going to be good for metal. So let's give it a shot. And I do expect cutting through this it to spring back fairly aggressively. That's one down, one to go, and that blade actually worked pretty well. I'm tempted to try to cut the upper one with just the blade, but I don't know, that might be a tall order. Maybe we'll start and see, but probably have to bail out. I don't know. Well, I rather quickly decided against trying to use the oscillating blade to cut that whole thing. Just got it free, and now this whole chain plate should be free. It's probably going to be bound up a little bit at the top, but let's see if we can wiggle it out of here. This is the first Liberty 458 chain plate out of 31, 32 boats that I know about that's ever had a chain plate pulled out. So let's see what it looks like up inside there. Well, I can see it and I can still barely believe it that we've been able to remove a 36, almost 37-year-old chain plate from deep inside the boat. And honestly, the lower 2/3 of it on both sides looks incredibly good, more than I was expecting by a long shot. And even up here in the bulwarks area, it's still in really nice shape. Now I'll clean this up later, take a good look at it, and we'll maybe dive into it with some non-destructive testing methods to see what it actually looks like internally. I see a couple of small crevice corrosions getting started, but nothing that's really super alarming. Of course, now there's 7 more to check, and I don't think we're going to realistically go through that process during this refit. That would mean I have to take all of the interior of the boat all the way apart. It's just not really probably going to happen. This will go back in, I think, as a backing plate, and that will serve as a really good anchor to help the external chain plates. So if you're watching this and you're a Liberty owner or you have internal chain plates, does this mean that your boat is probably fine? No. I don't want to advocate that a chain plate that's 35 years old should be okay. I think it's best practice to stick with the kind of rule of thumb numbers of 20, 25 years sort of thing. But you know, you need to do your own research and make your own decisions on this kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's very possible that I could pull out one of these somewhere else on the boat and it would be totally disintegrated. In fact, when we do drill the holes for the external plates, we may encounter some rusty chips coming out, and that might help indicate the condition in those locations. But don't anticipate we'll be pulling more of these out. Very exciting though to get one of these removed. I hope that it helps any of you out there that have encapsulated chain plates, or if you're a Liberty owner. We're going to keep on moving with the project, so come on back for more videos soon. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to get caught up from the very beginning, I'll put a playlist for you right here, and of course you can always subscribe for more. See you next time. We're gonna get that thing out one way or another, so stick around. Here we go. But now you can help me celebrate this little victory here by it's doing so good.